time to talk about the last week in the WWE, going back to last week's SmackDown and the Royal Rumble. First, before I just talk about the product overall, and the main question a lot of people are asking when it comes down to Cody Rhodes and Sami Zayn. But first, I want to talk about the Royal Rumble. The event overall was just okay, in my opinion. I thought both Rumble matches were very underwhelming. WWE really needs to do a better job of building back up the mid-card, because for so many years now, the mid-card has suffered, and there's a lot less stars, especially in the women's match, where music will hit, and you don't know who it is. I watched the product pretty consistently, and the music was hitting, and for about 10 or more individuals, I was like, who is coming? Until they show the person or the name. I didn't know who they were. So the mid-card needs to be built up better. Cody was the pretty obvious winner, and Rhea was a pretty obvious winner too. And people can say, well, you got to go with the logical choices. I guess I thought you could kind of throw a wild card in the women's Rumble match and make somebody else win, especially if you're going to have Rhea win and just challenge Charlotte Flair, when we've already seen that feud before and it wasn't good the first time. I think it could be better now, but I also think it might even be worse now, because I've said for so long, Charlotte Flair is not a good face. So we'll see what comes of that, but I don't have high expectations for that feud going to WrestleMania for the SmackDown Women's title. Of course, the segment that ended the show was the big part of the Royal Rumble, and that's what made it enjoyable. It ended well, to say the least. They built that story so well, the Bloodline, the Sami Zayn part of it. I'm sure plenty of pundits and opinionists on wrestling have said a lot that can be said about this, so I don't want to talk about it too long. But let's just really break down some of the aspects of this Bloodline story and what makes it so compelling and why so many people are saying it's the best pro wrestling story in 2 decades. It started with Jey Uso really being the one to kind of start to go against Roman Reigns over 2 years ago. He didn't like the way Roman Reigns was doing things, and over time Roman Reigns had to basically beat him literally into submission and also start gaslighting him at times. So the Jey Uso part of the Rumble was fascinating to me, because Jey was in horror seeing what happened. Sami Zayn hits Roman with the chair, and Jey Uso can't believe it. I mean, Jimmy Uso can't believe it either, but Jimmy's the one that kicks him and starts beating Sami down. Jey Uso's watching in disbelief, and he's kind of having probably PTSD about what happened to him, but he's also seeing somebody else within the Bloodline stand up to Roman for the first time since he did it. So he walks out. And right now, going into tonight's SmackDown, Jey Uso's story is the most compelling to me, because we really don't know where they're going with that. I mean, we all have a pretty good idea if they're going with the tag match at WrestleMania, but we don't know that for sure. There could be one twist in the story, and I think there should be a twist in the story at some point. But also, what makes this story so good is we see that from Jey Uso's perspective. I can't remember a story in pro wrestling, honestly, where we have so many different perspectives at once within the same story. Like we had Austin versus McMahon. Out of their both perspectives, there was 2 perspectives. I mean, I guess you could say the NWO had multiple perspectives, but not really. It was 3 main people with the same cause. But here we're seeing a group really come together with their own different perspectives. I guess Evolution, they turned on Randy Orton, and then eventually Batista turns on Triple H. A lot of people pointing to that story as a good story over the past 2 decades. And I would agree with that overall. But I still think the Bloodline story is better, because we have Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens having real life history, friends, and growing up in pro wrestling together. Sami Zayn watching Kevin Owens getting beat down, trying to stop Roman Reigns from doing it is what leads Roman Reigns to being hit in the back with a chair. That, of course, ties into a history of the Shield imploding and Seth Rollins hitting Roman Reigns in the back with a chair. So even Roman could have some PTSD from the past, even though he is the main character in this storyline. He even can have some PTSD about what happened for him in the past. And you could say that's why Roman tries to run such a tight ship within the Bloodline. That's why he is a control freak within the Bloodline. That's why he tries to beat people into submission, because look what happened when he didn't do that within the Shield and he got turned on. So he overdoes it with the Bloodline, and the same thing happens to him again. I thought that was a cool thing within the story as well, from Roman's perspective. And of course, from Sami's perspective, he is seeing his good friend for so long, probably more like a brother to him than just a friend in the past. Kevin Owens getting beat and beat and beat. But at the same time, Sami Zayn has tried. He really has tried to show his loyalty to the Bloodline. But this was the straw that broke the camel's back. He literally tried. He said that during the segment. He tried. He said that to Jay, which is another reason why Jay had his own reaction to the event that was happening. So Sami felt like he couldn't do this anymore. He tried to show his loyalty, but Roman took it too far. Heyman took it too far, so he turns on Roman and then gets the beating that he knew was coming. And even Jimmy has his own perspective now on the story too, where Jey Uso is almost choosing his friend Sami over him. That's why he's saying, we're brothers. You need to choose me. This is the Bloodline. All of these different perspectives is why there's so many layers in the story where each individual is getting their own perspective. Solo Sikoa, loyal to Roman as just like his bodyguard almost. His right-hand man, the right-hand man to the king almost, as you could say Heyman is that too. Every single individual in the story, including Kevin Owens now, has their part within the story, and that's what has made it epic. It is an epic wrestling story. It has brought storytelling back to wrestling, which was so needed, to say the least. Now, with all that being said, the big question, however, is there going to be a big enough payoff where Sami Zayn is concerned? They've built up Sami Zayn as the big baby face now. We got a huge pop when he hits Roman with the chair. But Cody Rhodes wins the Royal Rumble. And Cody is very over too. We saw that his shirts sold out kept selling out at the arena for a Royal Rumble. So Cody clearly doing great with merch, although the Bloodline and Sami Zayn do too. So would Cody Rhodes being the one to dethrone Roman not give us a good enough payoff to the Bloodline story? Cody Rhodes does have a story of his own that they're trying to now shoehorn into this story, but it could work. Cody wanting to chase the WWE title because his father never won it. And so the thoughts around the wrestling world is that they're going to lead to is Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns at Elimination Chamber, Jay costing Sami the win, and then Jay and Jimmy Uso versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn at WrestleMania. I think that fits the story. I think that's still a good story to tell, possibly. I would hope that Jay can keep getting a good perspective if that's the route that they're going, though. But is Sami not facing Roman or not beating Roman a good enough payoff? The thing is, though, Cody doesn't have to beat Roman at WrestleMania. In fact, I think it makes for a better story for Cody if Cody Rhodes loses to Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. I think that is the route that they should actually go. They can keep building Cody to once again get a shot at the future, whether against Roman or somebody else. I think it makes Cody's story mean more than he just returns, gets injured, comes back and wins the title. It doesn't measure up to the Bloodline story. It lacks some build. It lacks some layers. So I think Cody losing at WrestleMania is the right way to go. Now, with that happening, I hate that both titles are on Roman because it makes Raw so hard to watch. Raw needs bigger stakes. They don't always have the Bloodline on their show. The Bloodline is mostly always on SmackDown. They occasionally appear on Raw, but Roman rarely does. I do want the titles separated sooner rather than later for the overall shows, the TV shows, to get better because it's necessary for Raw. Now, I said this on another channel that I felt like the reason Raw is booked so poorly is because Comcast is not actually at the forefront to buy WWE. And now today, Nick Khan comes out in an interview, and the CNBC interviewer, who also is owned by Comcast, says Comcast isn't in the running. And Nick Khan says he doesn't feel that way. So I don't know if that's true. I don't know if Comcast really isn't in the running. I don't know if that means that Saudi Arabia is really the front runner because they have so much money to spend. It's very much possible that we still are getting close to Saudi Arabia buying WWE, which could also mean bad things for Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn of Syrian descent. That's why he never goes to the Saudi Arabia shows. It seems to be why WWE is apprehensive for making Sami Zayn the face of the company, the biggest baby face in the company. Could be another reason why they're not going down the path of Sami beating Roman for the title. But because of all the layers, there's so many different possibilities still this story can go. I think it has legs way past WrestleMania, especially if Roman defeats Cody. But at the same time, for the love of God, can we split up the title sooner rather than later? That's about sums it up. That's the main things I wanted to talk about. I thought Raw overall was not a good show this past week, especially as a follow-up to Royal Rumble, because we all wanted to see the Bloodline, and then they put up this half-assed product. Over on SmackDown, though, something I did want to talk about is that Lacey Evans was getting all this crap because she faked out a fan with Down syndrome like she was going to high-five him. She is a villain. That's what she's supposed to do. And at the same time, she does that to everyone. And people want to be treated like everybody else. I just don't like on social media how we have to try and cancel everyone when she was clearly in character. She does that to everyone, every single person, not just people with Down syndrome. And later in the show, Kevin Owens made it up to that same person in the crowd with Down syndrome, really hanging out with him, bringing him a shirt. So the WWE obviously made it right, but can we let Lacey Evans stay in character as a heel? Can we let wrestlers have real heat again? Let wrestlers have real heat again. Please. It needs to happen. We've got to get wrestling back on track. WWE is the organization trying to make that happen. Triple H has a long way to go with his women's division. One of these days, I'm going to have to drag Triple H's booking for the women in a specific video with that, where that's the main subject. Could be soon. But I think other things Triple H is doing as booker is great. Obviously, the Bloodline story has been booked immensely well. He's letting heels be heels again, like Lacey Evans. Things are on the right track for WWE. It's unfortunate that the sale is so imminent because who knows what that can change, especially if Saudi Arabia is the buyer. Before the next couple of months, at least, leading up to WrestleMania, I think WWE will continue to be on a great track.